windy up there?
Actually, it is.
Maybe that's it, because it's ridiculous amount of wind here, and I know it's not an antenna situation, but maybe I don't know, it's the internet. But where do we leave off? What's the last thing you heard? I was rambling,
We were talking about your favorite comedians.
and I was answering. And figured if the mic was still on, but I'm. What was the last thing you heard?
Uh, Hicks.
Okay, well, I'll recap real quick. Basically,
Sure.
grew up on Pat Cooper. Okay, uh, loved Pat. Didn't understand him as a kid, just like the sound of his voice. As I came into the business, got to know him, worked with him, and looked at what he was doing, and felt he was way ahead of his time and didn't get his just due. You know, because he really was doing stuff that his peers didn't do, talking about his culture, his family, and so on. So Pat was my first inspiration,
I actually worked with
and
him in
I
'97.
yeah, yeah. He retired, and just uh, he was my inspiration. And then the guys that I admired, and I may have sort of like emulated a bit, for it was Kinnison and Hicks, as I was saying, and not that I'm like any of them, but I have the kind of voice and culture of Cooper. I used to have that kind of rock and roll edge of Kinnison. I used to wear a do rig, the whole deal, and Hicks. I just like the material to be smart, even though it's kind of edgy. So I hope that answers the
That's
question.
why. That's the same reason why I love George Carlin.
Yeah, yeah. Without he's a lot of people's go-to is Carlin and Pryor, and absolutely, but for me that's where my mind goes when you ask me that question, to the three I mentioned.
Yeah. It's funny. The first time I saw George Carlin, I did not see him as a comedian. I saw a music video, Wild Thing, on MTV.
No, that's Kinnison.
Kinnison. I'm sorry, I meant Kinnison.
Right.
Before
Yeah,
I even
yeah,
knew he was a comedian, I just got to
really.
America and that was playing at MTV all the times. And looking at the girls in the video did not hurt.
Right, yeah, no,
The one girl, the one especially.
yeah,
Uh,
he was living the rock and roll life.
yeah, if I recall, he passed away in a car accident.
Yeah, on it, after he got married.
Yeah,
They say he was slowing down a bit, although he married a stripper, but
yeah.
and he was, I believe, coming from his honeymoon to a gig,
Wow.
and of all the, I guess it's irony, he got hit by a drunk driver, I believe.
I and also remember some of the iconic parts in movies. There was one specifically in a Rodney Dangerfield movie
Back to
where he,
school.
yeah, Back to School, where he was the teacher. Can you
Yep.
imagine him a teacher like that?
I think I had public school in New York City. I
Yeah,
think I had some of those teachers. In fact, I know I did. You know?
yeah. Uh, it was no, but it was definitely one of my favorite comedians as well. Uh, so now, w- talking going back to COVID, what do you think is going to happen once we go back on the road? If I mean, I know it's going to be a wild guess because nobody really knows.
Yeah.
What's your take? What's your feelings on
In life or in the business?
it in the business?
Oh, it's such a huge question mark. I mean, I sent out an email yesterday. I think you were included, just to say hi to everyone. Hope you're okay, and I'm still here when we get rolling again. But it's gonna be one of two things. It's gonna be slow and painful to start momentum. Yet I know from what I'm seeing in public, there's a part of people, they want to get out. They want to live again.
Yeah, no,
And that
there's a
might
lot of
help.
people like that. At least on paper, at least on social media, I see a lot of people. I want to get out. I want to go back to this. But I always feel that we're going to be the last of the last thing to really open. And we're gonna be, I think, the most, you know, the
Well,
most.
people want to laugh. People want to laugh. They want to see the Italian American comedian
Oh, I
doing
think you're.
his
I think you're frozen again. So let me see if it goes back on. Let me see. Well, I think we're gonna interrupt. This is the second time that has happened, but we will have. Uh,
They're gonna want to laugh.
oh, hold on. Let me see if you're back on.
I'm coming on in three, two, one.
That's
Hello.
perfect.
This is give me my third introduction, Tony.
That's right. We're here with comedian Joseph Anthony.
For the third time today.
I know. Uh, oh, it's frozen again. So I don't know what's going on, but I got the Carlo Russo
So
saying,
who knows?
"Okay, there you are. We got you back." Uh,
Oh wow. So based on what Carlos said about people going out, that's very reassuring. But no offense, Carlo, you're talking about in Houston and Oklahoma. You people are half crazy anyway. So I don't think you're afraid of anything.
no,
East
no, no.
Coast people have a lot
Carlos is
more
very
anxiety,
sensitive.
Carlo.
Uh, Carlos, it's one of the
He's very
dude.
what?
He's one of the two guys for the Uncle Louis variety show, and we were discussing that. We were actually talking about uh, how also Italian American comedians we work 90% of our gigs in this Northeast, and that's where it's getting the most is the most affected. New York and New Jersey
Well,
area,
yeah, yeah. Well,
Connecticut.
that's where you have that's where you have your most cases, and that's where you're going to have your most anxiety.
Yeah. I mean, we can always try to book you in Wyoming.
Wyoming's good. Wyoming's good. I like cows.
Too. Hold on, hold on. In one of your skits, you actually tell people you're born in Alabama.
Yeah, I come from a long line of farmers. We used to milk shit, grow things. It's farm talk. I don't expect you to
Yeah,
understand it.
I did not understand, all this technical terminology that you use, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
we used to pick the crops with a baseball bat. It's a lot more effective. We like, look at this fucking broccoli, bang.
so what's one of the your favorite places that you have done showing, whether it's a city or a specific theater? If you have to pick your top three,
Oh, I hate that question. I,
that's
I
why I
hate
asked.
that. I know I hate that question. I get it a lot. Um, man, I, I don't know. I've had some highs, I guess you'd say. I big audiences where you did great and you feel that that rush, that the applause and the laughter is like it hits you in the chest. And I did shows with Artie Lang of like over 3,000 people, and that I felt that feeling. I used to have little clubs that, for whatever reason, that I'd work on somewhat of a regular basis, and for whatever reason, I feel really creative in them. So, I there's a club down to Point Pleasant Shore. I used to get kind of creative in a lot. There's a club up in North Jersey. I don't want to name names because people get
Yeah.
stupid, but just certain places made me feel I don't know, more free, more creative. It's hard to pin it down. I don't know. I don't know. I wish I had a better answer for you. Some of
Uh,
my best work took place at the Sunday dinner table.
I'm sure. You know what? Like when you work in clubs, uh, I like clubs are a little different than theaters. I do a lot of shows in theaters, but also clubs they have the special feeling when you have those 200 people. It's packed. Everybody's next to each other, and people having a good. People go out to comedy clubs to have a good time.
All right.
They're
That's
drinking, and because it's such a more intimate, you have the wave of laughter. But at the same time, if you bomb, that's not a good feeling to be so close to the, I mean, I've been blessed enough with Uncle Louis that they always had some great reception. One of their favorite places where you have performed many times is the Governors. You know,
yeah. That very props, guys. Very funny stuff.
yeah,
I'm a fan, and that would have been a better question instead of name the place that's your favorite. Name the type of venue I can answer, and you
yeah.
kind of hit on it. Like I've done everything in over 30. I've done everything twice. Okay, and if I had to compare the theater to the comedy night to the theater, I said that to the cruise ship, whatever. I've done it. The comedy clubs, which are kind of far and few between here on the East Coast, there's nothing like it. You find that mentality a little more in the Midwest. Like there's a place, for example, called the Comedy Castle
Where's
outside
that?
of it's outside of Detroit. It's in a suburb of Detroit, and this place is just you walk out there, and people are just so eager to hear comedy. They're there for comedy. They're not there for the food. They're not there for something. They're there for comedy and a few drinks and and you can do stand-up comedy. There's no filters and they're just with you on every word. And yeah, that's the greatest feeling is a good old-fashioned comedy club, which there were a lot more when I started, and that was the appeal was to work in a comedy club. But today, good luck making a living doing just comedy clubs because there's just not enough.
True, and one of the things that you touched on, like you know, you were talking about, not just if there's food or something, like that. Because we've done with Uncle Louis a bunch of uh, dinner shows, right? So one of the things that you're always afraid with dinner shows is that, okay, people going around, they're eating, they're on their table and they're distracted, which it does happen. But I got to tell you, because you brought it up, because talk about Detroit, we did a show in Detroit in November, okay, the Italian American Cultural Society.
Mm-hmm.
They were sold out, 600 people, close to 600 people.
Uh-huh.
Actually, it was supposed to be 550. We sold that out, and they keep adding tables the night of the show. So they didn't turn away. So it was close to 600 people. But I got to tell you, it was such an amazing uh, night as well because people were there to have fun, and it
Yeah.
was a great experience, which I did not expect because, like you, I think that the smaller nightclubs like that they give you that feeling. But also, there's a rush when you do big theaters, and they're packed,
Yeah.
bro. Not when they're because you could have 600 people for a comedy show, and 600 people in a comedy show is a successful show,
Yeah.
right? But when you
Excuse
put
me.
it,
Yeah.
one of the most magical places, okay, is the Stanley Theater in Utica. So I do usually between 400 to 700 people for the comedy. Music I do more than that, but that's because it's the only theater in town, right? And 700 people kind of get lost sometimes, you know, in a 3,000 seat settings. But when we do 700, it's actually a very successful show. But go tell people they see empty seats into the theater.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah. If you do a packed theater, that's and it's not overcrowded because what happens sometimes with overcrowding, people by nature start to get distracted, talk to the person next to them. But if you have a captive audience, man, you better be good. And if you're good, you're a king.
I think I know it sounds stupid, but I think the most successful shows, from an audience standpoint, is when you actually have the crowd in the front having a great time. I think it sets the pace for everybody else. Because once people start laughing out loud, it seems like everybody else follows.
Oh,
Sometimes
it's
people
definitely.
are afraid. Not so much in comedy clubs, but as it is in theater. They wait for the next person sitting next to them to laugh so they can enjoy it. I think it's more.
Well, yeah. In a theater, in a theater, you're sitting like you're on a plane. You know, you're sitting elbow to elbow like you're on a plane, and you're literally waiting for something. You got no, you know, you're not next to someone hunched over having a drink. You're sitting like this, staring. You know, that's why I said you better be worth your salt if you do a theater, because if you kill in a theater, you know, a lot of guys can maybe kill in a comedy club, but can't kill in a theater. It's a whole different animal. Um, and yeah, that's the thing. It's once it starts, you get a ripple. So it's
Yeah.
definitely contagious, you know. And
Uh,
it's what makes clubs a little easier to do and a little more comedian friendly is because not only because laughter is contagious, but people are, like you said, not afraid. They're inhibited, you know. That's why alcohol is always good as a lubricant. But people are kind of
yeah.
inhibited, and they don't want to be like you know, if everybody else isn't. So, but once people are just hitting the stomach or hitting the throat with something that just is funny and they belly laugh, well, it's contagious, you know? So, yeah, people are inhibited, you know, and that's why a club is great and any kind of intimate setting is great. But you get into, you know, you mentioned something before about food. I get hired for a lot of private things. And although it's not my favorite venue, it pays the bills,
Right.
and you do a private event at a catering hall or what have you, you know, a few hundred people. They're not a captive audience, and they're not there for comedy. They're not there to see you. You are something extra to the event. So you come in and they say to you, oh, we're going to put you on during dessert, and I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not. And they go, why not? You know, it's the perfect time. The maitre d says we can only fit you during dessert. I said, because if you had to choose between me and a piece of cake, what would your choice be? And the cake wins every time.
Uh, I gotta tell you, private events are hit and miss because like you said, they're not there for you. Okay,
No, yeah,
and we had an experience. I have two fantastic comedians. Okay, unbelievable comedians, funny as hell. We did the whole tour. Everybody was laughing. Everybody had a good time. At the end of our tour, which was with the Bad Boys, we went to a couple of these comedians to somewhere in Washington, actually Virginia, into a very rich country club resort and spa.
those
And
people are tough. But go ahead.
there were, keep in mind, I predominantly work with Italian American comedians. So I brought two Italian comedians, and now they booked us. I mean, it was their doing, they wanted us.
Right.
So we go there. Out of there's maybe like 100 people, all millionaires. Some of the top millionaires in the country. Okay, one Italian. The rest of them were Jewish. Okay, but and then they started the comedy show around 11:30 p.m. After they played golf all day, they had they ate dinner.
I could
Okay,
finish this story for you, but go ahead. I know the
yeah.
story. I've been there a million times.
By the time we started, we had a bunch of them. I'm not kidding. Before we even started, they were sleeping in their
Oh,
chairs. We had a guy in the front with his mouth open, catching flies, you know?
thank you.
And
I got to tell you, I got to go back to Carnival.
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, okay, because it ties into wrong place, wrong time, wrong everything. Okay, I get hired by a catering hall, Italian Americans for Carnivale. Okay, and they're gonna do it. I'm hired for 5 Saturday nights.
Okay.
Right? This, you know, it's all during the month of February. It's almost like Mardi Gras,
It is.
where you're
Basically,
gonna
it
go.
ties in. Correct. Fat
Yeah,
Tuesday and all that. Correct.
you're gonna be a big sinner and a pig and a glutton. You know, a mortevam,
Okay.
and then you're gonna pray. Okay. So I get hired for these 5 Saturdays. So I'm at the first one. I get there nice and early. Everybody's good, blah, blah, blah. There's like 450 people. Now, these are people in, I think, Westchester. They're paying at least $100 a plate to be there. Okay. So they feel entitled. Every car on the lot is a BMW, a Mercedes. And they say to me, okay, we're going to put you on whatever, let's say 9 o'clock. So you're prepared to go on it. And I had been there too early to begin with. Like your energy starts to top off. You want to go on within an hour of getting there, so you're still pumped, right? Anyway, 9 o'clock comes. Oh, we can't. We got this, and I'm watching the event, and I'm watching these self-entitled people. Maybe not all of them, for the most part. I'm watching them get drunker and drunker, and they got stilt walkers, people on stilts. They got flamethrowers, and the people are dancing and blah 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 blah. Right? Finally, they come to me after 11 and they go, okay, we need you to go on now. And I knew I am up against the wall. But I go on. I go on a high riser. I'm starting to do my shtick and no one's listening naturally. But I fight for it. I don't turn on them or whatever. And about, I don't know, not even 10 minutes in, less than that, a girl, and I had seen her earlier in the night too. I watched her. She was a good-looking girl. She was drinking. She even slipped on the dance floor. She wanted everyone's attention. She got up. I'm up there fighting for my life. She got up, walked across my stage on this high riser for no reason, and then walked out to the hall. So I look over at her boyfriend. I don't think, whatever he was to her, and he goes, just do your act. Like, in other words, she could do whatever she wants. Yeah. Fast forward, she comes back, she did it again. The first time I let it go, I said, I barely have these people attention. I don't want to lose them and get vicious like in a comedy club. I got 5 weeks of work coming ahead of me. The second time she did it, I make a little comment, something stupid, not even really funny, but just to sort of address the situation. Because now people are starting to watch, like, oh, something's going on that stage. Yeah. This guy didn't like what I said. He jumps up on the stage with me. Okay? Now, his back is facing 450 people. I got the cordless mic in my hand. And because he's not a real tough guy like the people I grew up with, instead of just cracking me and going, hey, don't talk to my girlfriend like that, he goes, let me tell you something. You don't know who I am, and blah, blah. And as he's talking to me, building his confidence, he puts his hands on my neck. Okay? And he didn't choke me. Like, if I was going to choke someone, I'd just friggin' choke him. But he's building his confidence. Once he touched me, and mind you, the owners, who were all family, were watching this, filming it, mind you, weren't coming to rescue me as they should have. Yeah. I go, well, the guy's hands are on my neck. I got to take matters into my own hands. So I flipped the cordless mic upside down and I split his head open. Wow. Not once, but twice. I cut him open here, that he was bleeding like an SNL skit, blood just shooting out. All right. and then the family comes, the brothers, they come, they tackle us. And I'm on the bottom of this pile, covered in this guy's blood, right? After I cracked him with 4 guys on top of me. And I remember being on the floor going, I didn't come here for this. What the hell is going on? Oh. Well, punchline is,
what year was this?
Oh, good question. It wasn't. I'm gonna throw a number, say about 10 years ago. Okay.
Well, we're in conclusion of the show, but I gotta ask you one important thing that I think one of your most
it's never good to end. It's never good to end on
killing somebody. Correct.
Attempted murder, right? It's never good. That's the first rule in comedy, folks. Don't end on an attempted murder story. Go ahead.
I think one of your most famous experiences was NBC Last Comic Standing, where you were one of the top finalists.
Yep, top 20.
Which one was that experience for you?
I come in the afternoon for the cast. It was like the judges. Yeah. This was the first. This was like I think season 4, so it's a credit I'm hanging on to, but it was a long time ago. Yeah. And the guy was something to do with the Tonight. I think the Tonight Show at the time. So it was like the judges and the camera crew. That's it. And I go in and they give you like 3 minutes or whatever it is, and I kill. I'm like, I'm just going to go for the throat, and I did. And they love me, so they say, okay, you come back tonight, and you'll be on television. Okay. Unfortunately, you have a whole day. We were at Caroline's in New York,
Yeah.
and we're there all day, and you got to
Another
fill out.
legendary place.
Yeah, we got to fill out paperwork, and by the time the night comes and they bring in the studio audience and the whole deal, I was just tired, man. I wasn't happy with what I did on that stage, so I didn't win. The guy who won that year was Josh Blue, who's the he's got cerebral palsy, I think, or something, you know. But look, I got to be me. I had my Harley do rag on, and I got to get some FaceTime on TV, and that's what it was, you know. Unfortunately, a lot of the business has become, if you want notoriety, it's a competition, you know, and that's not what it should be. It should be the funny guys. The funny guys get the work. The funny guys get the exposure. But today, it's how many followers do you have? Because we want to put asses in the seats. You know,
But
it's business.
unfortunately, that's a business. If you need,
It's business.
I think this generation is just gonna be, you know, you do videos, you become popular, and then you show what you have on stage. When it maybe should be the other way around. You know, you're a great comedian, and maybe you do videos to complement your trade. You
Well,
know,
that's what Last Comic Standing became. Last Comic Standing became seasoned comics, who had earned paid their dues on stage with someone who had been doing comedy a half an hour, 6 months. And the person doing it 6 months could win the competition because either they had some funny 5 minutes or some story about their life that they like, so it really wasn't about stand-up comedy. It was about a popularity contest, and the original Last Comic Standing kind of predates social media, but it started to become then, as it is now, a popularity contest. I
yeah.
get it. It's business, but folks, there's a lot of funny people out there that, just don't get their just due.
You
And that's
know,
a shame.
I'm dead though, and I gotta. Unfortunately, I understand where they're coming from because if you are somebody, when we grew up, we did not have 2 million channels like we do now. Okay, now television, it's watered down. Okay, you could also get Netflix. The people all over the place. The computers. There's not. So I think from from NBC standpoint, if you're gonna do like that, you might want to grab somebody that's a lot of followers. They're gonna end up following your show, which is not right.
Right.
But from a business standpoint, makes perfect sense. Well,
You're
it's
you're
three
you're
o'clock.
nobody. You're wait. My famous line. I think I wrote this. You're nobody till you're somebody.
True, very true.
Show my
Uh,
videos later so they know that I'm funny. All right.
I will. I gotta tell you, and I got one line for you. Remember, no matter where you go, there you are.
I love you, Tony. Grazie.
You too. Grazie, Joe. I appreciate you coming on. I'm definitely going to have you again. Hopefully we'll have better internet connection at that point. But I'm looking forward to working with you once this whole COVID thing it's over. Okay.
So am I.
Stay safe, you and your family. Okay. God bless. And tomorrow we're going to be on at 4 o'clock with Funny Man, comedian Tom Anzalone. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a safe evening. Bye bye.
Ciao.